Okay everyone, so today I am going to go over how to write a CER paragraph. As you know, we use CER paragraphs when we are answering questions. CER is a format. So this is the format that you want to use anytime you're asked a question on a test or in a class. You want to use this format. Now the C stands for claim, and your claim is the answer to the question. The E stands for evidence. Evidence is what you see or notice that helped you answer that question. Many times the evidence is going to be a quote from the text directly, but sometimes it could be a description of what you saw in a picture or in a video as well. And then the R is the reasoning. The reasoning is where you explain how the evidence helped you come up with your answer. So what specifically about that evidence helped you come up with your claim? So reasoning is really a connection. Reasoning is where you make a connection between your evidence and your claim. The reasoning is generally the hardest part for most people. So today we're going to go over specifically how to write the reasoning. So I want you to think of reasoning like a trail. It's what you're going to explain to the reader about how to get from point A to point B. We're going to call this box here point A. And then we're going to call this box over here point B. Okay. Now point A is your evidence. You always, as an investigator, find your evidence first before you come up with your answer. So point A is your evidence. That's where you start. You start by noticing something in the text. And whatever it is that you notice, whatever evidence you find in the text, helps you come up with your claim. It helps you come up with the answer to the question, which is point B. Okay, so over here on the left, point A, that's your evidence. As an investigator, you found that first in the text. And then over here on the right, we have point B. You use the evidence to come up with an answer to the question. That's your claim. Okay, now your reasoning, this is the hardest part. Your reasoning is where you take the reader and you explain to them how you got from point A to point B. So how you got from this evidence to this claim over here. So the reasoning is represented by this line right here. Okay. Now I like to think of reasoning as a trail. Okay, so it's walking the reader, your reader, through the process of how you got from point A to point B. So it's like taking them down a trail. So your reasoning is going to be this line right here, and it's like a trail from point A to point B. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how to do this within your writing. So we're going to use the missing person activity for our first example. Okay, so in the missing person activity, one of the bags included a pair of gloves, a flashlight, and a fishing book. Okay, those were 3 of the items in that bag. And let's say I used that evidence and I came up with the claim that this person is adventurous. That's my claim. I used the evidence and I came up with the answer that this person is an adventurous person. Okay? So I have my evidence on the left here, and then I have my answer to the question, which was asked to describe the person. I said this person is adventurous. Okay, but now I have to write my reasoning. I have to tell the reader how I got from these items over here, how I was able to figure out that this person was adventurous. Okay? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to start by describing your evidence in your own words and what it has in common. So I'm going to do that. Okay. So I'm going to start by explaining what this evidence has in common. Well, I noticed that all of this evidence has to do with the outdoors or being outside, which means that this person likes the outdoors, most likely. Okay, that was my first thought. That's what I noticed about this evidence. All this evidence has to do with being outside, which means that this person likes the outdoors. Okay, so now what I have to do is I have to connect this word, outdoors, to this word over here, adventurous. I have to show the reader how I got from the person liking the outdoors to being adventurous. So I'm going to do that by making a generalization. Okay, so in my next box, I have to connect this idea of liking the outdoors to this idea of being adventurous. So I need to use both of those words in this next part of my path. So I might say, people who like the outdoors like to explore, which would make them adventurous. Okay? So now these two boxes here in the middle on my trail make up my reasoning. They explain how I got from point A to point B. So you'll see here that I started with explaining the evidence. I said that the evidence has to do with being outside, which means that this person likes the outdoors. Okay, so I'm going to put that in bold. And then my claim was that this person is adventurous. So to connect the idea of liking the outdoors to being adventurous, I said people who like the outdoors like to explore, which would make them adventurous. Okay, so now I have my evidence over here on the left, I have my claim over here on the right, and then in the middle I explained to the reader how I got from point A to point B by making connections between the outdoors and adventurous. Okay, so my last step would be to put this all into a paragraph form. Okay, so you do that by following the CER format. So the C means that the claim goes first. So I might say, person A is most likely an adventurous person. That's my claim. That's my first sentence. The E means that the evidence would be my second sentence. So I would say, for example, they had a pair of gloves, a flashlight, and a fishing book. Okay, and then now the R, that's my third sentence in the paragraph, is my two sentences here that connected point A to point B. So I would say, this evidence has to do with being outside, which means that this person likes the outdoors. People who like the outdoors like to explore, which would make them adventurous. Okay? So this here is a really broken down way of being able to explain to the reader your claim, evidence, and reasoning in a very clear way. Thanks for listening.